Good morning. Welcome to Auburn Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, located on occupied ancestral land of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Let's start over.
Bottom button.
Whatever this one.
Try now.
Good morning. Is that better?
Yep.
Welcome to Auburn Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, located on occupied ancestral land of the Muskogee Creek Nation. My name is Jim Newton, and I will be serving as Service Associate today. If this is your first time here, or your 100th and first time, we are glad you are here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulders, or you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad you are here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square, or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we are glad you are here. If you sing like angels or mumble behind the hymnal, we are glad you are here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome. Welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you are here. On behalf of the members of the fellowship, I extend a special welcome to all visitors who are joining us for the first time, and to those of you who still feel like visitors. If you have not already done so, please fill out our visitor book at the front near the greeters, or digitally by visiting auuuf.org/visitor. You may also contact our minister, Reverend Chris Rothbauer, at minister@auuf.org with any questions or concerns you may have. As we prepare for our services this morning, please remember to turn your phone and other electronic devices to silent. Let us move into the service, willing to be authentic with each other, honest within ourselves, and open to connection in all its forms.
Our opening words this morning are special words for Halloween from my colleague Christian Schmidt. No matter who you are or what you are welcome here. Let's be clear. Here we welcome goblins and ghouls, saints and sinners, angels and devils, zombies and werewolves, vampires and witches. We welcome princesses and princes, paupers and farmhands, aliens and astronauts, robots and cyborgs, firefighters, nurses and doctors, cowboys, cowgirls, cowfolk of all variety. We welcome Superman, Wonder Woman, Black Panther, Batman, Spider-Man, Black Widow, and Thor. Indeed, we welcome both superheroes and superstars. In short, we welcome people, monsters, and all manner of creatures. Here we welcome you, and all of you, and what you are. Welcome. Let us begin.
We light our chalice this morning with these words from Jennifer Grayson. Universal mystery, guide us away from the desire to shine light in all the corners. Teach us to embrace the night, for without the darkness, we never see the stars. As is our tradition, we also light a candle in solidarity with those families separated at our southern border. Our opening hymn, hymn number 1 in the great hymnal, May Nothing Evil Cross This Door. One of the ways that we proclaim the warmth and caring of our community is by sharing our joys, concerns, and milestones. If you are joining us virtually, we invite you to type your joy, concern, or milestone in the YouTube chat box. We invite those in person to one at a time drop a pebble into our communal bowl during the music for meditation. Thank you to all who shared their joys, concerns, and milestones this morning. May all the joys, concerns, and milestones of this community, those shared aloud and those held in silence, be received into the care and concern of all present.
Please join me in the spirit of meditation this morning in whatever way feels right with these words from Laura Horton Ludwig. As people of faith, we seek to live in a spirit of love, a spirit of community, justice, and peace. And yet in so many corners of the world, both far and near, we see divisiveness and hate. If we look deep within ourselves, perhaps we will even find those shadow energies emerging there too. We struggle to respond to the outer world and to our inner demons in ways that manifest love. At times we may fear that love will not be strong enough. At times we may question whether love is really at the root of all things. In this world with so much struggling, suffering, and discord, we may struggle to hold on to faith in love, knowing that if all things come from the one source we proclaim, that source must somehow hold hate as well as love, violence as well as peace, evil as well as good. This is the mystery within which we live and die. These are the questions that haunt our days and nights, and yet we are not without hope. Our struggles and our questions testify to our longing for peace and for love. Our very longings are born out of that peace. We dare to address the spirit of life and love. In the stillness and silence of our own heart, we read the imprint of love, created not by our own will, but planted there for us to discover, by what or whom we cannot know, and yet it is there. A clue, a talisman, a beacon, a light within. May it keep hope alive, even as we dwell in mystery. May it guide us all as we seek to act wisely and well, and may it help us to be vessels of compassion for one another and for our world. Blessed be.
This religious community exists by its mission as a fire exists by burning. But a fire cannot burn without fuel, and it is the time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member and friend of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission. And without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. To make a donation online via PayPal, please visit auuf.org/donate. If you are writing a check, please make your check payable to AUUF with a note on the memo line about whether it is for the offering or your pledge, and drop it in the offering bowl or mail it to P.O. Box 669, Auburn, Alabama 36831. The offering will now be gratefully received. The reading today is A Blessing for Traveling in the Dark by Jan Richardson. Go slow if you can, slower, more slowly still. Friendly, dark, or fearsome, this is no place to break your neck by rushing, by running, by crashing into what you cannot see. Then again, it is true, different darks have different tasks. And if you have arrived here unawares, if you have come in peril or in pain, this might be no place you should dawdle. I do not know what these shadows ask of you, what they might hold that means you good or ill. It is not for me to reckon whether you should linger or you should leave. But this is what I can ask for you, that in the darkness there be a blessing, that in the shadows there be a welcome, that in the night you be encompassed by the love that knows your name.
In the ancient Irish tale, Echta Nera, or The Adventure of Nera, we are told of King Ailill of Connacht, who, as a test of bravery, sends his retinue out on a task on Samhain night. He offers a prize to whoever can make it to the gallows and tie a band around a hanged man's ankle. Yes, it's pretty gruesome to think about, but it is an ancient Samhain tale. Now, this might sound like an easy, if morbid, task, but Samhain is when all manners of creatures come out, and each of Ailill's soldiers is thwarted by demons and run back to the king in fear of what they've experienced. However, one soldier perseveres and succeeds. Nera makes it to the gallows and ties a band around a hanged man's ankle. What he wasn't counting on, though, was the man coming back to life. The man asks for a drink, and Nera proceeds to carry him on his back to 3 houses. At the third, the man drinks and spits on the householders, killing them. On the way back to the castle, Nera sees a fairy host burning the king's hall and killing all who were inside. And he follows the host through a portal to the other world. There he learns that all he's witnessed that night was a vision, and it would come to pass on the next Samhain unless Alil was able to defeat the Sidhe, the fairy people of Irish folklore. He returns to the hall and warns the king, who calls upon a great hero to destroy the Sidhe's home at the hill of Cruchanan, thus ensuring that the fairy people would not destroy the kingdom come the next Samhain. The most obvious lesson in this tale is that sometimes it takes a brave person to ensure the survival of the people. I have to believe that Nera was no less brave than the other soldiers Alil sent on his task, but the difference was he did not let his fear control him. As a result, he was able to complete the task, and had Nera not persevered through the darkest of dark nights, everything he held dear might have been destroyed, annihilated at the hands of the enemy of the king. His bravery through the darkness of the night ultimately saved his entire clan and ensured that the people of Connacht would continue for many years to come. More than that, though, Nera's bravery made him worthy to witness the vision of what was to come for the clan. Perhaps in the old mythological framework, it took someone who faced their own demons and monsters of the Samhain night to prove that the clan was worthy of survival. For if none had succeeded, none would have been able to save them all. Almost certain destruction would have met them, and we likely would not be hearing about Nera's adventure today. Tonight, some of us, especially those with children, may be celebrating Halloween. Others may celebrate its inspiration, the Irish cultic holiday of Samhain, a night when it's said the other world opens and all sorts of creatures and souls of the dead travel into our realm. The gateway of the world is coming open on this night. Many light bonfires in order to protect themselves from the machinations of less than savory creatures. Offerings are left to appease the other world creatures and get them to leave us be on this night. And others honor the souls of their dearly departed ancestors by hosting a dinner in their honor, where their favorite meal is served and an extra dish is set in case the dearly departed should choose to reappear. These classic Samhain rituals point to something the ancient Celts believed, that there is more to this world than we usually see. The darkness of the Halloween night is filled with creatures and monsters of all sorts, and they believed that we needed to be vigilant in order to appease these beings whose wills don't always align with our own. As Samhain marked the beginning of the new year on the ancient Celtic calendar, it was a liminal time between the light of the summer and the darkness of the winter. It was also a time when cattle were butchered to sustain the clans through the winter. Today, Samhain is one of the most important holidays for neo-pagans, especially those from Celtic or Wiccan traditions, but also stretching to many other continental believers as well. As I've been steeping myself in the Celtic traditions during the pandemic, a question I've had is why? Why is Samhain so revered among people today? After all, I grew up thinking it was just a time for candy and costumes. Maybe a bit of mischief if you were into that sort of thing. Is there any relevance for modern people in opening the box full of darkness that Samhain represents? I suggest, to answer this, that we look at what the other world represented to the ancients. The idea of the other world is that there are forces we don't know or understand in play nearly all the time. The other world was not something to mess with. These forces that were separate from the ordinary day-to-day occurrences of our realm could strike at any time. But 2 times a year were recognized as especially prone to contact with the other world. Beltane in May and Samhain. These times between the midway points of the major seasons were times when the creatures of the other world could pass over, sometimes helping us, as with Nera's vision, but more often risking our survival, as with the threatened destruction of his clan. For many of these old Celtic clans, survival from day to day was not a given. Every day could be their last. Beyond the confines of their homes were all manners of threats ready to annihilate them if given the chance. And these were not supernatural beings, as we think of supernatural beings. They were all too real to these folks. The idea of the other world is that beyond the relatively safe confines of our territory, there is the unknown, and where we don't see or know, what we don't see or know often threatens our very survival. So much so that, like Nera, they often needed to face what they didn't know or understand to ensure that they would live another day. Vigilance was needed to ensure that the creatures of the other world, the people and animals and possibly other worldly creatures that lurked just beyond their sight, didn't wreak havoc. What relevance, then, does the other world play for us today, in a world where we don't usually think about fairies and monsters and zombies out there just beyond our reach? Well, John Halstead, who's a Unitarian Universalist and a naturalistic pagan, says that people seem to have an instinct that there's a world other than this one. He says we human beings account for the feeling that there is something wrong with this world, with the intuition that there is something more. Because this world seems so imperfect, so many people believe that there is more than what we see now. And much of the work of religion has been to reawaken our ordinary senses to the extraordinary. Different religions have handled this instinct in different ways. Some of the Dharmic religions pose that reality is an illusion. Christianity and Islam posit the existence of heaven and hell where otherworldly beings exist. Halstead calls these sorts of religions transcendental religions because they posit 2 realities, one which is apparent to our senses and the other which is invisible and eternal. Both responses, in both of these responses, the apparent world, the one that we live in, is inferior to the other world. The Celtic religion that inspired Samhain is of the transcendental kind, believing that there is something out there greater than ourselves, that out there, apart from the clan, was terrifying and all too destructive for people just trying to survive. The problem with this sort of religion's understanding in modern society is it often serves as a sort of escapism as we seek to flee to the other world to escape things we don't like in the apparent world. We avoid our responsibilities and seek a place where we'll be happier. To my understanding, that's the opposite of the moral of Nera's story, of finding wisdom for living in the apparent world, in the other world. Nera was not seeking escapism, but rather channeled the energy he received to make this world a better place. Nera saved his entire clan because he was willing to see the unknown, to face the terrifying, the monstrous, no matter what the outcome. So if the world outside the clan was the other world to the ancient Celts, what is our other world? The problem, as Halstead sees it, is that our world has become disenchanted. So often we fail to see the magic, the beauty, and even the terrifying threats that are right in front of us. Our species' tendency to seek escapism means that we are alienated from the very world that holds and sustains us. It's possible to go from day to day without ever considering the massive destruction our world faces, or what will be lost if climate change has its way. In some ways, we have become the terrifying otherworldly monsters who threaten the survival of the clan. And too often, this escapism is a form of spiritual bypassing, a way of using spirituality to help us avoid the problems, the pain, oppression, and adversity so often a part of our personal, professional, and communal lives, numbing ourselves to the pain of the world rather than addressing it. If we have become the monsters, then maybe the other world is right here in front of us. The apparent world that we take for granted and we fail to see the magnificence of. In the words of French surrealist Paul Éluard, there is another world, and it is this one. If the other world is right here, right now, then re-enchantment will consist not of discovering some place beyond the natural, but of rediscovering that which is right in front of us, and learning to see the sacred in the here and now, accessible to anyone who will take a moment to look. In the words of Halstead, in my experience, real re-enchantment, or if you will, real magic, always connects me with my body, with the earth, and ultimately with my community. Disenchantment manifests as a disconnection of these things. My body is the door that leads me out of the prison of my mind. That door opens onto the natural world, and that world is populated by other beings, both human and other than human. Rediscovering this other world is about learning to see how amazing this world is, to ground us and give us a heightened sense of place, to help us to live, in the words of Wendell-Berry, a three-dimensional life, to stay away from anything that obscures the place it is in. And rediscovering this other world will reconnect us to other people, to other creatures, and the world. Just as Nera dared to face his fears and the darkness of Samhain, we must cross the invisible barriers that keep us from seeing the world as it is. As Nera received wisdom that helped him save his people and make the world a better place by venturing into the other world, there is so much we can learn by daring to see that which is often shrouded in mystery, hidden from sight. This Halloween, what offerings do we need to make to assuage the monsters who would destroy our world? What knowledge would help us in our quest to save our clan, our species, and make the world a better place? What do we need to know to ensure that the earth reaches another Samhain without destroying this world so vital to our society, which we take for granted? What do we need to get us through the winter of this planet? I think some of us will have different answers, and what I want to suggest is that there is wisdom waiting for us on how to create a more just and equitable world, on how to keep our environment from being pillaged, perhaps saving our species from the effects of climate change and oppression, on how to build communities where people can find belonging, on how to transform ourselves into people who see the majesty of the other world that is this world, who have a sense of place and relationship with the universe. I realize I've not made a small proposal this morning. I rarely do. But it seemed natural, since I usually do social justice sermons on the fifth Sunday, and the fifth Sunday is Halloween, to ask how would these Celtic kings have handled something like climate change. But just as old stories of Celtic kings and heroes can still have relevance in today's world, just as ancient rites have wisdom to share with us about how to live, we may yet access the wisdom through the barrier of the worlds to prevent our own destruction, to learn to love the darkness so that we may see. It will take bravery and persistence and maybe even a little bit of faith, but it may also be that which saves us. May it be so. Our closing hymn is hymn number 50 in the gray hymnal, When Darkness Nears.
When darkness nears and the sky, the waiting trees a distant sigh, the end of day like a mother's voice nearby. The end of day, the passing year, the rush of time because of fear, will of the night and its mystery now so near.
Please join me in extinguishing our chalice. You will find the words in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please be our guest today after the service for our coffee hour here. This is an opportunity to check in with folks about the service and how their week has gone. As we move into coffee hour, please help our volunteers by bringing your chair to the Bush Center. If you are not signed up for our email list, please make sure to do so to receive updates about ways to connect. You can find information on signing up on our website, auuf.org/subscribe. We have 3 announcements today. In case you haven't read the announcement from the regathering team, we're currently planning on meeting in the sanctuary for the first time next week, November 7th. We do expect the number of new cases of COVID in Auburn to continue to drop. We will be at half capacity at around 55 to 65 people, and will continue to require masks on AUF property. We will also continue to have a virtual option for those who are unvaccinated, immunocompromised, or who are feeling sick. We are really excited about being back in our sanctuary. I also have an announcement from Habitat, actually from the We Help Coalition of Churches of Auburn, they're not going to have their annual cookie walk this year. This is about the time they're usually soliciting donations for cookies. For the cookie walk, I will send out an email with information. They still do need donations, so they would appreciate that. I'll send an email with details. And let's see, our last announcement is about the auction. It's planned for December 3rd. Your donations are fervently sought. Go to auuf.org/auction to contribute your item or service. That's auuf.org/auction. Please join us now for our sung benediction.
Go forth into the world in peace, in peace. Be of good courage, hold fast that which is good, boy. Go forth into the world in peace, in peace. Love of people rejoicing in the power of the Spirit. Go in peace.
Our benediction is by Jane Rainey Rezepka. When all is quiet and we are small and the night is dark, may we hear the tender breathing of all who lie awake with us in fear, and together may we gather strength to live with love and kindness and confidence. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.